If there was a
No, absolutely.
defensive-minded guy that we were a little scared of, I'll admit. I mean, I think this could be a trap game on Sunday. The Eagles should win it, like we talked about at the very beginning, but
Sure.
there could easily be a scenario where the front line of the New England Patriots, gets after Jalen Hurts a little bit, and the Eagle defense gets a little more shredded than it should. Zeke Elliott's always historically been good against Philly, despite the fact he's 50 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to make an excuse for why it could be a trap game, but yeah, sure, you can make the case Belichick's a 500 coach without Brady, but still, he's still a good coach you got to respect going into this game.
And that's,
Yeah,
I think, why they are,
wonderful.
especially for the line that they set, right? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but it's a little bit surprising as well for the -3.5. I mean, Philly
Yeah.
being a 3.5 favorite there, I would have thought it'd be a little bit more, but it's Tom Brady day, and like you mentioned there, Thomas, like I mean, he's got plenty of time to prepare. And also, I think there's a tweet, Brett Coleman, yeah, he said here, the Eagles' worst offensive game last season came against the Colts of all teams, and the Colts played cover 1 53% of the time. And then
Oh.
he also brought up a couple other instances of playing cover 3 against them. So basically, taking away the middle of the field closed coverages and then playing zone. I guess there's something to that. I don't understand the analytics, I'll be honest, as much, but there's something to that. So if he can pick it out, there's no doubt, like you mentioned, that Belichick's been planning. But I'm
Sure.
also interested to see the extra wrinkles, because I think 500, you mentioned this as we were talking earlier, but with the D Swift trade, I mean, that's an
Right.
extra wrinkle that no teams have seen, right? Because it's always been the knock of
Right.
Jalen doesn't throw to the running back. Well, now he's going to. So I'm pumped to see that.
Right.
I really can't wait to see that extra wrinkle.
Yeah, that may have been the case last year, but you're not going to win. I mean, you're not going to go out and score 40, 50 points every game. There are going to be games where you struggle for whatever the reason is, and that Colts game was just one of those games. We won at the end. I don't put a lot of stock in that. I mean, I think Belichick will have a plan. I think he'll probably try to get pressure on Jalen Hurts, try to confuse him. He'll do things like that. But with the Eagles' offense and the adjustments that they've made, we have a new offensive coordinator as well. So it's going to look a little different, even though it'll be pretty similar. It'll be different in some ways.
Yeah.
I just don't think at the end of the day they can keep up with the Eagles. You talk about the first game of the year. Usually, defenses get tired a lot quicker. Teams get tired by that fourth quarter. I just think the Eagles have too many weapons and will put too much pressure on that defense to keep them in. The only way they win is they got to keep Mac Jones and that offense on the field, and they got to run for 200 yards. If they don't run for 200 yards, I don't think they win this game.
Paul Fedora's super chat backs that up, saying Pat's down 3 offensive linemen. Jalen Carter's going to eat. So they not only have to run for 200 yards, that they have to do it without, for sure, the right tackle. And then, the guard's been
Right.
banged up as well. So good point there by
And you guys
Fedora.
hear about Juju, about his knees ready to explode?
Yeah, but then
That-
there was
they-
also that
what the-
report that said that it wasn't true, right? Didn't he come out and say, like, what do we believe
Yeah.
about that?
But who writes a report that his knees are about to explode? Like what?
Who's-
What do you mean it's going to explode? That's crazy.
Exactly. It's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
I want to know. Albert Breer was the one who reported that first. I want to know who's feeding him that information, and then also being confident enough to just go with it rather than
Right.
like confirm with Juju to say, "Oh no, his knee is literally a ticking time bomb that's going to explode." That's the most ridiculous thing ever. But yes, like to your point, he says that, and then Juju comes back and says, "If anything, it's getting stronger." So
Yeah, right.
I guess you believe the guy who it's his actual knee, but at the same time,
I guess.
I mean, why else would Breer make this up?
It's
There's
an
maybe
excuse
some
if James
concerns?
Bradbury locks him down. If Bradbury locks him down, then his knee was always bad.
There
If
you
he
go.
balls,
That's
then he
true.
was fine. It was a fake report. That's exactly what it is.
We look at this schedule, right? And it's difficult. It is difficult on paper. Sometimes, teams are better or worse than what we expect. But just you look at it, face value, it's a difficult schedule, especially kind of that middle portion of the 8 or 9 games in a row. So Thomas and I have said this quite a bit. Like, you have to get out to a positive start. You can't afford to be
Absolutely.
stumbling out of the blocks. Curious
Agreed.
to hear your thoughts though in that beginning stretch. And Thomas, if you want to pull it up, if it helps to
got it
have it
up.
on,
Yep,
on the
I
screen.
got it
But
here.
yeah, so as far as just kind of the beginning, 6 or 7 games, is there a particular team, if you're going to pick out a team that the Eagles might stumble, or that potential that we wouldn't really expect as much?
Well, yeah, I think out of the gate, like I've done some videos, like even short term. I think it's very important to start 2-0 because you got a Thursday night game with Minnesota. I believe this, and Dallas fans hate me for, but I think they're starting 0-2. I think they're going to start 0-2. So if you get
Yeah.
up to a 2-game lead real quick, that's an amazing thing. I think the Eagles win. I think they're going to win most of their games, if not all of them, leading up to that bye week. I do think the one game I wonder about is the Jets game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know we've never lost to the Jets in the history of our team, but if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers of a few years ago, that may be the first time I think we lose this year. But it just depends. What are you going to get from Aaron Rodgers? I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is right now. So that's what I would say. And then, I think, the Eagles should beat New England. They should beat Minnesota. Then they're at Tampa. They don't worry me. You never can say for sure with a division team. So Washington usually is a split with us.
Right.
So we got to be
Mhm.
careful with that. But I mean, I think you got to start early. I think you got to start hot, because I think after that bye week, going to Kansas City and then Buffalo, those are tough games. And I really think that the offense is going to carry us early. I think the offense carries us early and the defense adjusts. And I think by the end of the year, it's going to be the other way around. I think the defense is going to start to play good football. But I think the offense got to carry you early. I mean, none of these teams on the schedule scare me, except for, and they don't even scare me, the Jets. I just wonder what you're getting from Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
But when you get to that Kansas City Buffalo, those games they get really tough. San Francisco is going to be a huge game. Then you got to go to Dallas at Seattle. I mean, that's a tough stretch. So I do think it's important to jump out early this year and start off really well.
I mean, I agree with the Jets part of that. I think Aaron Rodgers is on some sort of crazy revenge tour. I think he's going to literally pull a Tom Brady year one in Tampa Bay, where he said, all right, you guys thought that, it was Devontae Adams or it was the Green Bay Matt LaFleur offense. Like watch me just run roughshod through the entire AFC. I honestly think that week 2 is going to be tough. And I don't think a lot of people are mentioning the Minnesota Vikings because we've owned the Minnesota Vikings over the course of the Kirk Cousins career. But that team is still very talented. That roster is still very, very good. They added some pieces in the draft, and it feels like this is their chance to kind of have a revenge game against us, because that week 2 matchup on Monday Night Football was extremely embarrassing last year and was kind of looming over the Vikings the entire season. And so, while I think the Eagles are definitely better than the Minnesota Vikings and are a much better roster overall, it feels like maybe a big Justin Jefferson game or a good Kirk Cousins game, albeit in prime time. Hard to believe. But those are the two that I would say. Other than that, like you said, Washington's a split, but you should beat Washington and Sam Howell. It's only week 4. The Bucs are going to be trash. I think the Los Angeles Rams, especially with the whole Cooper Kupp situation, not that great. And then you see what you have with Tua in terms of health by the time that he gets to Philadelphia on that Sunday night. So I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be very, very interesting.
That could be an interesting game, because that could be one of those games where it's a 38-35.
Yeah.
That Miami game. That could be a like one of those classic games on prime time, because that team's got some weapons. I just don't know about Tua.
Yeah, I totally agree. Quickly here, let's get another entry into our signed mini helmet by DeAndre Swift. Philly John Wick says, appreciate you guys. Those almost here. Let's go. Josh got those 2 entries in there. Drop any super chat between now and probably the third quarter of the first game on Sunday. And we're going to be giving away to a random super chatter. So getting that one locked in as well. Of course, a lot of people watching with Philly 500. Be sure to give a like, thumbs up, sub to all 3 channels. A couple of comments here. Nady Banks says, how you guys doing? We missing Joey Shakes tonight. I'm liking the Birds odds starting 5-0. Week 6, we got Jets. Might be a battle. You're deaf right. We need to start hot. The hot part is true, too. And I think you just mentioned that 500. Because that latter part of the schedule, there's no way you win them all. There's no way that you win 80% of those games. I mean, we can go back to the list as I pull it up here. You look at Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle. If you win 2 of those 4, fantastic. Really good. But if you're trying to battle it out for an NFC East division title, or even worse, trying to stay alive for a bye, you got to have enough wins locked up, or else you're going to be sitting in an ugly spot come the time when people are banged up and injured late into November and December.
Yeah, that Chiefs game is a tough one, because we're coming. Not only are we coming off a bye week, but the Chiefs are coming off a bye week too. So both teams are going to be well rested. Andy Reid has a pretty good track record when it comes to off the bye. See, that's one of those games that I just think that's a tough spot for the Eagles. Like I think I could see them losing that game and bouncing back versus Buffalo the following week. It's at home, but I do. I think you got to start off hot. I do, and I think it's going to be the offense. I think the defense will take time to adjust to a new coordinator. But by that second half of the year, I really think the defense is going to start playing really good football.
I think so too. And I'm looking forward to it. I think all of us are. We opened with obviously talking about Jonathan Gannon and the lack of whatever you want to call him, but Desai being in here. I mean, he said all the right things, but to your point, 500, like we have to see it, right? Like we have to see it actually on the field. I'm excited about he wants to impact the quarterback and how he's taking those different variations, moving guys around the field. I mean, it seems like he's just wanting as many playmakers as you can have out there. But to your point, I mean, yeah, there's a gelling that happens. You got to have the chemistry, get everyone kind of fit into the scheme. But I could definitely see that, which again, the beauty, I guess, of the schedule, like we've been looking at is, I mean, you do have some time to kind of get that, one side of the
Right.
ball carrying the other. And so you have the defense there that can kind of catch up towards the later end of the season. But I'm excited about it. The other thing too, and I got to mention this because talking about one of those games especially, and I know how you feel about Kelly Green, so we have to bring it up because we haven't actually talked. We've been on social media before about it, but the Kelly Greens dropping, I mean, I think we all know like how fire those jerseys are, and I cannot wait. But I just got to hear. I mean, your take on the Kelly Green jerseys, and we're playing it. What, 2 games? It's against it's Miami and Buffalo, right? Am I remembering that correctly? It's those two.
Miami and Buffalo.
Yeah. So the fact that the Kelly Greens are back and that we got those jerseys, I got to hear it straight from you. How was that as soon as we got the official drop?
It was like a dream come true. I mean, I ever since I've been on here, I've been doing 2 to 3 videos a year talking about bringing back Kelly Green, the need to bring back Kelly Green. Ever since I've been on here, and it's funny because people said you're crazy, it'll never happen. Then maybe, and then now it did. But I've never adjusted to the whole midnight green in Newton, and the Eagles logo as it is. When I look at the Eagles logo, right, you guys see an eagle face, right? I see a giant E. I see the letter E.
Right.
That's what I see when I look at that logo. I just never, I never got used to it. So to me, it feels like, the Eagles are back. That's how I feel. And I think the Kelly Green that they did, I think it looks really good. I think it looks really, really good. Matter of fact, that's the number 1 alternate selling jersey in the history of the NFL. I think people are going to want to see more of it. So, yeah, I'm excited. I wish they would have used it against Dallas or did it with the Giants on Christmas Day. The Miami and Buffalo, I wish it was better choices. But other than that, I mean, I love it.
Whose jerseys did you get in Kelly Green?
The only one I got so far is Devontae Smith.
Okay.
I only got Devontae Smith so far.
Okay.
But I think the next one, I'm trying to decide if I want to do Reddick or Nolan Smith. It's going to be one of those two.
What is your record prediction, 500? Do you have a? I think I'm at 11 wins. Is kind of where I'm sitting. What's yours?
I float around between 11 and 14.
14.
I think it'll be somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Eagles are going to be every bit as dominant as they were last year.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is this conference is actually weaker than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
And you have no Brady and you have no Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, the AFC games, you got some tough matchups: Buffalo, Kansas City. But I think the rest of it, I think we're gonna just go right through. So I think another between 11 and 14 wins somewhere in that area.